And welcome everybody to the GSMC Sports Podcast. I am your host, Kenneth Grunfelder. It is great to have you guys here on this Monday, February 17th. We have a lot to talk about on the show today. Before I get into all that, just want to remind you guys to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to hit that super chat button in the chat if you want to see me acknowledge any thought or comment you may have throughout the live broadcast. Makes the show more lively, more entertaining between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. We appreciate you guys' viewership each and every day, so any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us as we put out content for you guys each and every day. And also, the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, GSMCPodcast.net. That is GSMCPodcast.net. So let's get into what we are going to discuss today. So we are going to start off the show. We're going to talk about All-Star Weekend in the NBA, what I liked, what I disliked, some of the things that maybe some of the players had to say as well. I wanted to get into what Draymond Green had to say actually yesterday as well. We're also going to talk about some baseball as well. We'll get into the Red Sox signing Alex Bregman, as well as just talking about the Red Sox as a whole. What kind of threat do they pose to the Yankees in the American League East, as well as just the American League as a whole. We'll also talk about what the Chiefs should do with Travis Kelce, because he's contemplating retirement now. And, I'll give you my thoughts on that. We'll talk about Juan Soto arriving to Mets camp. What kind of season is he going to have? And then the final part of the show, an interesting story that came out regarding the Giants. And that is they could potentially be looking to sell about 10% of the franchise. So not a majority percentage, but, I wanted to get into that and give you my thoughts as well. So hope you guys like my new home. Now we'll be the sports podcast host going forward, and really excited. Haven't talked about baseball on this platform in a while, so looking forward to that, but also just talking about other sports as well, including football, obviously. We'll continue to do that, but let's get into some NBA, though, to start off the show. So, yeah, the All-Star Weekend. So, did watch a little bit of the three-point contest, and I do wish that they were able to do what they did last year with Sabrina Ionescu and Steph Curry. Now, I think they were going to do like a double where they were going to have Ionescu with Caitlin Clark, and then Steph was going to be maybe with Klay Thompson. I don't know what they would have done. Well, I know that was the idea, but Caitlin Clark ended up not accepting the offer, and I guess they just didn't do it this year. Because I remember I did tune in to watch that. I did, like I said, I watched a little bit of the three-point contest. I was hoping that Jalen Brunson would have put up a better performance. He did get off to a good start, but he ended up getting eliminated. And Tyler Hero actually ended up winning the three-point contest. Buddy Hield, he actually did really well, but he ended up not winning. I don't know why I thought of this, but it reminded me of the home run derby back in the day when Josh Hamilton had that unreal performance, and then he ended up not winning the home run derby. Justin Morneau ended up winning it. I don't know. I don't know why my mind went to that. I mean, it's not like Buddy Hield had, that kind of performance, but he was pretty good. He was pretty good, and he still ended up not winning. He fell just short of beating Tyler Hero. But I did catch the tournament last night, and I look, the NBA has tried to do different things, and not just the traditional game. We did have the fantasy drafts, and then there was that format with the the target score was still a thing last night, but yeah, it's just, watching the championship game between Shaquille O'Neal's team and Charles Barkley's team, it's just more of the same. It's just a glorified shoot-around. How many times are we going to see Steph Curry, chuck up a half-court shot? Now, it's awesome because, it's Steph Curry, and when he does it, yeah, the crowd goes crazy. But how many times are we going to see that? A lot of people, they want to see these guys going 100%. And on top of that, what also hurt them this weekend is that LeBron didn't even play because he's dealing with a foot and ankle injuries, I believe. So you didn't even see him in it. And how this was set up, you had, the rising All-Stars playing against some of these teams, and, they didn't have a chance, right? So, yeah, it's pretty dry. I mean, I've said this for a long time. To me, I think the best All-Star game, now, the hockey All-Star game might be better, but the ones that I usually watch, I mean, it's either the Pro Bowl, which I've talked about it on the last show, how I'm not a fan of it, but I think that Major League Baseball's All-Star game is the best to me. Now with the NBA, the best players go. The best players go for baseball. The best players go for hockey. For football, the best players usually don't go because the top quarterbacks that get voted in, they end up not going, partly because, one of them is in the Super Bowl, but some of them just don't go. At least with the NBA, yeah, you get your top players, but they don't go 100%. They don't. And it's not fun. Now, we talked about this in our production meeting, but an idea that was floated around is if you did two teams, you have a USA team and you have a world team, and you have them play in Europe and they go at it. Would players go hard for that? And, we did have the rosters for it too. And the world team has the size advantage because you have, Victor Wembanyama, Karl Anthony Towns was on the team, Jokic, and then on the USA team, you got the veterans, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, LeBron James. This was an idea that we proposed. And I think it'd be cool, but again, would the players go hard during that game? Now, I wanted to bring up what Draymond Green had to say about the All-Star game because he was on the panel for TNT, and he did have some strong comments on the All-Star game format. He said how it was ridiculous. I wanted to see if I can get exact quotes. So this is what he said. You work hard, and of course it goes away. Oh, here it is. You work hard all year to be an All-Star, and you get to play up to 40, and then you're done. So that was the target score for these games. This is so unfair to Victor Wembanyama, who just took this game really seriously. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who just took this game really seriously. Come on, what are we doing? This is ridiculous. Because, you had guys like Kobe Bryant. They would take it seriously. And, these young guys, they're getting an opportunity to play in these games, and it's not the traditional format. Because, they're a record. Draymond Green talked about records that could be broken, during the All-Star games. And now with these new formats, it's not the same. And, some of these young guys, yeah, they want to go for these records. So I do get it from that perspective. But I don't know. I don't know. It's tough because, like I said, they have tried so many times, and I just gave you, the GSMC idea. But, what more can they do? Eventually, could they go back to the traditional format? Yes, but, some of these guys are just not going to try. Steph Curry actually ended up winning the MVP last night. And I just think it's funny because when it was announced that he won MVP, KD, Kevin Durant was going crazy for him that he won. And, when you heard those reports that he didn't want to go back to Golden State, I feel like he should have wanted to do that, but I think it's because he didn't want to play with Draymond, and that's a whole other thing, but I just wanted to bring that up. But yeah, it's just, I don't know what they can do. Could they go back to the traditional All-Star format? But again, no one's going to try. It's just going to be this high-scoring game that's going to go into the 150s, and like I said, it's going to be a glorified shoot-around, like people call it. So, I don't know. But they got to do something. They got to do something. But also the other thing I wanted to touch upon, Kevin Hart was there, and they handed out gifts to the TNT crew. With Ernie Johnson, Shaq, Kenny the Jet Smith, and Charles Barkley because of everything that they've done over the years. Providing coverage for the NBA. They've done a great job because, with all the, the contracts and stuff like that. I think they are still doing it though. It's just they're going to be doing it on a new network. I think because ESPN, I think they're going to be joining, but it's going to be like the same. Uh, there's still going to be. I don't know. I got to go back into it, but because there was thoughts that they could just be completely broken up, but I think they're going to be back. It's just not going to be the same network. But it was just nice to see that, because they're one of the best pre and post game shows out there inside the NBA. They've been doing it for years, and NBA fans love it. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm a passionate NBA fan, but even I was affected by the news that there was the chance that they weren't going to be together next year, because when I do watch it, they're entertaining. So that was really nice, though, that they were able to do that, and Shaq got the best of Charles Barkley last night. And Charles Barkley was very confident going into the championship game that he was going to win, and it was like 11-0 to start, and then they ended up winning Shaq's team. So he got the best of Charles there. But let me know what you guys think, though, about the All-Star game, the All-Star weekend. What'd you like from it? What'd you dislike from it? Let me know in the comments. So when we come back from our first break, we are actually going to talk about a sport that I haven't talked about in a while, and that is baseball. Get my thoughts on baseball. It's been a while, but we'll talk about the Red Sox landing Alex Bregman a little bit, and just talk about the Red Sox as a whole. What kind of threat do they pose to the Yankees in the American League East, as well as, what kind of threat do they pose to the rest of the American League, really. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, I'm losing shit. A stupid myth, you choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh,
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast, and I realized right as we went to break that I said football, so my brain is still programmed to say football, so I apologize for that, but at some point, it'll be corrected. But we are back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast, and we're going to now talk about the Red Sox and the moves that they've made this offseason. We'll highlight Alex Bregman being signed by them, and then just talk about the Red Sox as a team this year, going into the 2025 season. What kind of threat do they pose to the Yankees and the rest of the American League? So, Bregman was one of the last big-name free agents left on the market, and the Red Sox ended up picking him up, and it was on a friendly deal, I would say, because, you were hearing he wants 6 to 7 years, and, now he's 30 years old, and, teams not willing to do that, and that's why it took so long. And now, the Red Sox come in, and they give him a 3-year deal, and I think it's for $120 million with opt-outs the first 2 years. Now, there's some deferrals in there as well. So, if Bregman has a big year, though, I mean, he's going to opt out. And something was just said in my baseball group chat. Oh, so this is some Yankee stuff. So we will see. We'll talk about the Yankees at some point this week. We're going to talk about them a little bit in this segment here, but the Red Sox have had a good offseason. And last year they finished around five. Well, they finished exactly 500, 81 and 81. And it's kind of been a disappointing time for them because they won a championship now. I mean, this is going on 7 years ago, and the fans have kind of been frustrated with how ownership has handled this team. They let a lot of marquee players go. They traded Mookie Betts. They let go of Xander Bogaerts, Benintendi, J.D. Martinez. Traded Chris Sale last year before the year started. There's been a lot of changes with the Red Sox, and fans are frustrated. Now, as a Yankee fan, I can't really give them sympathy. I mean, I remember on the baseball podcast, I talked about them a little bit and just saying, yeah, I mean, fans deserve to be upset because it's like ownership doesn't care about this team. But now it seems like they have realized their wrongdoings, and now they're starting to make moves to better this team. And, I give Alex Cora a lot of credit because, it's not like the team is bringing in the best players, and he's doing what he can with what he's got. And now, like I said, they're starting to improve this team. Well, also because they have, some good young players as well that have come up and done well. And the one player that they did keep, Rafael Devers, they made sure to not let him go because fans would have really lost it. But now they're starting to turn the corner, and they're going to be a competitive team, more than just a competitive team. I think this team is definitely in the mix for the American League East, and if not, definitely a wild card. I do like the Alex Bregman signing. He's on a short-term deal, like I said, and he could opt out after 1 year or 2 years. And, he talked about how he wanted to come to this team because they have a winning culture. And, obviously in recent years that hasn't been the case, but, they won a championship in 2018. They won a championship in 2013, even though that was a long time ago. But still, the Red Sox have won, more recently than the Yankees have. And it's just weird because they'll win the championship and then they won't even make the playoffs the following year. But hey, they win. Red Sox fans will take that. So, like I said, I do think that this team definitely can make the playoffs. And I like some of the other moves that they made. They signed Walker Buehler to a cheap deal. And, he pitched well for the Dodgers in the postseason. He was basically the closer for the Dodgers in the final game of the World Series. I don't really want to bring that up, but I'm going to. Pitched well. And, they also traded for Garrett Crochet from the White Sox. So they improved their pitching staff. And the lineup is pretty good, now with Bregman. Now, the interesting thing is, where is Bregman going to play? Because Rafael Devers plays third base. Well, I think the idea has been floated around that he could play second and Devers will still play third. Or, on the days that, you want to give Devers a half day off, you DH him and then you put Bregman at third base. Now, Alex Bregman, his numbers have kind of gone down over the years. I mean, peak Alex Bregman was 2018, 2019. But I think he's still a good player. And I'll actually pull up his stats from last year. But yeah, I've been looking at Baseball Savant a lot more over the last year or so. And, it kind of gives you the advanced breakdown of players. And, yeah, but you could see that Bregman's numbers have gone down over the years. But last year, 260 batting average, 26 home runs, 75 ribbies, a 768 OPS. Still, was productive. But you go back to, like I said, 2018 and 2019, like I said, that was peak Alex Bregman. 31 home runs in 2018, 103 RBIs, 286 batting average, 394 OPS, 532 slugging, 926 OPS. And then in 2019, he had 41 home runs, 112 RBIs. Actually, wow, he got walked 119 times. I did not know that. He got walked a lot. 296 batting average, 423 on base percentage, a 592 slugging percentage, and then a 1015 OPS. So that was his best season. But, and the last few years, the numbers have gone down. 2021 he only had 12. Well, he only played in 91 games. He had 12 home runs. But the last few years, this is kind of what you're going to get from him. Which again, the RBIs were down, but he had 26 home runs in 2024, 25 in 2023, 23 in 2022. He had 93 ribbies in 2022, 98 in 2023. A little over an 800 OPS. And, around a 260 batting average like he had last year, 262 in 2023, 259 in 2022. But still a good player. He has really good numbers in Fenway. I saw his splits last night in Fenway. They're really good. So I think he's going to fit right in. Now, in terms of where the Red Sox would rank in the American League, I would say they're definitely a top 5 team, I think. Because if you look at the American League as a whole, the American League is not very good. It's not very good. And, for me, I would probably take them over probably any of the Central teams, if I'm going to be honest. Now, I think the Royals are going to be good. The Guardians, I think, will be good. But, I don't know. Right now, I'd probably take the Red Sox over them. The West could be interesting because, you figure the Astros are still going to be good, but, they continue to lose players. They lost Correa, they lost Springer, now they lose Bregman. Like, their core has, slowly left over the years. But you still got Altuve, you still got Alvarez, Jeremy Pena. They signed Christian Walker, and they still got, Framber Valdez at the top of the rotation. They still got good players. But, they got eliminated in the wild card round last year. So are they going to improve or are they going to just flat out miss the playoffs? I don't know. Will the Rangers bounce back? I feel like that's a team that could bounce back. They're going to get Jacob deGrom for a whole year. And, they won the World Series 2 years ago. So you figure they're going to have something to say. Seattle has good pitching, but they don't hit. And then you look at the American League East. I think, for me right now, I would say they're probably right behind the Yankees. I think they're better than the Orioles. I think they're better than the Blue Jays. And I think they're better than the Rays. What did... The Orioles really didn't do anything. They lost Corbin Burns. They signed Charlie Morton. They signed Tyler O'Neill, who was good with the Red Sox. But what else did they do? Their lineup is still really good. I would rank I still would put the Yankees ahead. But I would put the Red Sox and the Orioles second and third. Blue Jays and Rays, I guess, could battle it out for fourth and fifth. The Blue Jays, look, they went out, they signed Santander. They traded for Andres Jimenez from the Guardians. They signed Max Scherzer, but how good is Scherzer going to be? He's in his 40s now. And the Rays, you figure they're always going to be pesky. But, yeah, like I said, I think it's going to be between them and the Blue Jays are going to be battling it out. And this could be Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s last year, Bo Bichette's last year. Blue Jays have really been a disappointment. They had that window when they had Simeon and they had Teoscar Hernandez, and I still don't understand why they got rid of Teoscar Hernandez. That still makes no sense to me, why they did that. And I think they were trying to get him back this offseason. Well, you shouldn't have traded him in the first place. But yeah, they They have been a huge disappointment. So this is kind of like their last chance to, do something. So we'll see. But I definitely think the Red Sox are going to be a thorn in the Yankees side because they were a thorn in the Yankees side last year. And they finished at 500. And now they're going to be a better team. And the Yankees, you can make the argument, got a little bit worse. But you could also make the argument that they got better. I'm in the middle. But, yeah, they definitely could give the Yankees a problem. I definitely think they will. And in a way, it could be fun because, the rivalry has been kind of stale for years now. So, with both teams being good again, that could add some flair to it. We'll see. But let me know what you guys think about the Red Sox offseason. What are your thoughts on it? How would you grade it? Do you think they'll be a playoff team? Let me know in the comments. So before we go to break, just want to remind you guys once again, tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to hit that super chat button in the chat if you want to see me acknowledge any thought or comment you may have throughout the live broadcast. Makes the show more lively, more entertaining between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. We appreciate you guys' viewership each and every day, so any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us as we put out content for you guys each and every day. And also, the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, GSMCPodcast.net. That is GSMCPodcast.net. So, when we come back from our next break, we will talk about football. We'll talk about Travis Kelce. What should the Chiefs do with him in 2025? And what is he going to do? Is he going to retire? Is he going to keep playing? We'll get into all that when we come back from our next break. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we are going to talk about Travis Kelce and what the Chiefs should do with him in 2025. Now, I think ultimately it's going to come down to what Kelce wants to do and not coming off of his greatest performance. You want to talk about, bad performances. Patrick Mahomes was not good in the Super Bowl. Was not. And Travis Kelce, he was a no-show too. He was a no-show in the Super Bowl as well. And, really was just, he was another guy that was just a non-factor. And I apologize, my segment title is off here. But he was another guy that was just a no-show in the Super Bowl. And on more than one instance. Didn't really show up in the stats department. It was relatively quiet. Whenever he made a catch, he would just fall to the ground. And then on top of that, there was a penalty on this play, but Mahomes is scrambling around and Kelce's just standing there not looking to try to, get open. Mahomes picked up a first down, but again, there was a penalty on the play. He did nothing on that play. And then also, when they were trying to, give the offensive line some extra help to block, guys were blowing right past him. They were going right through him like he was a door. It was really disappointing to see. And, I mean, here's a picture of him here from that night. But there was a lot of shots of him during the game. Just looked like he just was not interested in playing. He just looked like he was ready to go home. I mean, just like the rest of the team. And, he had career lows in receiving yards. Was not the same touchdown threat that we've seen over the years. And like I said, in the Super Bowl, catch some passes, and then he would just fall. He would just get tackled. He wouldn't try to turn up field and try to make a move on some guys. Wouldn't try to truck anybody, hurdle, nothing. We got none of that. And now next year, I think his cap hit is at $19 million. That's a lot. For a guy that's in his 30s, his mid-30s. For me, Kelce has to take a significant pay cut. And I don't know how true this is, but the Chiefs maybe look at him more as a role player now. Well, $19 million you don't give to a role player. So if he wants to keep playing, he's going to have to play at a reduced cost. Can't be playing under what he's making right now. Now, what do I think? Should he keep playing? Should he not? I mean, look, he had 800 yards receiving this year, or last year. I mean, he's not the same player he once was. I mean, last year, 2023, a lot of people were talking about his decline, but I said, yeah, but there was injuries, and, it happens. And then he had a good postseason. But now this year, or last year, I'm still caught in that middle, in the middle with this year, last year, whatever. Last year, even though the year just happened. Yeah, it's just, he wasn't the same. Did have that monster playoff game performance against the Texans. What did he have, like 170 yards? Now, part of that was because, the middle of the field was wide open and he had that big run, big catch and run. But, yeah, even then you're watching him run and he's running so slow. So, I mean, if he wants to come back, like I said, it's got to be at a reduced cost. Otherwise, the Chiefs, they can cut ties with him if they want to. And this is the tough part of the business, because he's been such a great tight end for so long. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. And, he's really contributed to this run that the Chiefs have had. But, at some point the wheels are going to fall off. And he even said that himself. He said he's going to stop playing when the wheels fall off. Now, I didn't think it was going to be this game. I thought this was going to be a competitive game. I thought he would do well. Maybe put a bit of a wager, a parlay together, including him. Because I thought, hey, he was quiet in the championship game against the Bills. This is where he's going to make his presence felt here in the Super Bowl. And that did not happen. His presence was not felt because, like I said, guys were just blowing right past him when he was going to block. Yeah, it was a tough game for everybody. And I think he should take as long as he needs. At some point, the Chiefs are going to have to know, like, what's the deal? You're playing or you're not? But, it's not easy. It's not easy because this is a big part of his life. And, who's to say the Chiefs can't get back to the Super Bowl next year? The success that they've had. Now they got something to motivate them. They got bulletin material. 40-22. And they're going to be saying, we got to get back there and win it this time. And there's nobody that's going to feel sorry for them because, they've won so much. But now they're going to be motivated. Because some people look at that performance, I do in a way, and say, yeah, I feel like they just were not prepared. going into the game. They came out flat. Now, I don't want to discredit the Eagles because the Eagles were clearly the better team. That's really why. That's really what happened. The Eagles just outplayed the Chiefs. They were the better team in all phases. But I do think the Chiefs also just, they didn't bring it. But that's just me though. So, but yeah, it's tough. It's tough. And this offseason, they're going to have to figure some things out, and I do think they will. The offensive line needs some work. I do think that they need to add another weapon, another pass catcher. I also do think they need to bring in a running back. They need to get back to... Actually, I don't know if they necessarily need to get back to, the Tyreek Hill days, but they do need to get more explosive on offense to an extent. And you saw Xavier Worthy, what he was able to do in the Super Bowl. I know you could say, well, it was in garbage time. I get it, but still, I give Worthy credit there. You're going to get Rashee Rice back, but, who's their third receiver going to be? Kelce, I just don't think is that explosive weapon anymore. I don't. When it comes to fantasy, unless it's in, the later rounds, I'm not looking to take him as a tight end. He's going to fall in fantasy drafts. Well, that is if he continues to play. And this guy was, the number one tight end for, 3 or 4 years straight. Now it's yeah, I'm not trying to take him. So, yeah, he's just, I don't think he's not that explosive weapon anymore. But, it happens. He's been playing for a long time. It's not like he's had a short career. I think he's the same age as Gronk. And I know we did this debate on the last show, but Gronk to me is always going to be the greatest tight end. Kelce's a close second. Kelce's right up there. But to me, he's second. So, if he ends up retiring, it's, to me, it's going to be sad because it's another great player that you got to see walk away. But he's got his whole life set up, basically. He's got the podcast. He's dating an international superstar. He's got it all. He's got the resume to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Yeah, it's a bitter way to end a career. But if he does end up retiring, I don't think he has anything to be ashamed of. Just not the best way to go out, of course, because your team just got destroyed in the Super Bowl on the grand stage. But not everybody's going to end their career like Peyton Manning. It doesn't happen. So, we'll see what happens, though. What do you guys think, though? You think Kelce's going to retire? You think he's going to come back? I do think, for me, I do think he would be open to taking a pay cut. Because he wants to win. Patrick Mahomes wants to win. Mahomes, if he has to restructure his contract, he'll do that. Why can't Kelce? Kelce's making money in other areas. If he wants to stay and continue to win, take a pay cut. Now, if it's a significant pay cut, yeah, maybe he's not open to it. I do think he's open. He would be open to a pay cut, but it could come down to how much of a pay cut. There's so many things to figure out here. The biggest thing is, does he want to play? I just think it's just the recent event of losing the Super Bowl, and that's why you're like, yeah, I don't know if I want to keep playing. Had they won, he would have been like, yeah, we're going to run it back again next year. He said he wants to keep playing till the wheels fall off. But like I said, did the wheels fall off already? Who knows? I think we're getting closer to that, but I wouldn't say they've quite fallen off yet. It looks like it now because, the Eagles destroyed them in the Super Bowl. But that's my thoughts there. Let me know what you guys think, though, about Kelce. You think he should come back? What do you think the Chiefs should do? Should they cut him? Will he take a pay cut? Let me know in the comments. But he would be hard to replace. Now, they do have Noah Gray, who is more of a factor this year. But, yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see, how this all plays out. So we are going to take our next break, and then when we come back, we will talk about Juan Soto. So position players have arrived to camp for spring training, and we're going to talk about Juan Soto and the expectations for him going into this year with the Mets. How is he going to perform? So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast. And for the fourth part of the show, we're going to talk about Juan Soto arriving to Mets camp and what are the expectations for him going into his first year with the Mets. So, obviously, as you can tell behind me, a lot of Yankee stuff, and you guys know this from the football podcast and even going back further than that, the baseball podcast. And when it was official that Juan Soto signed with the Mets, yeah, I was upset. But I was not like some of these other Yankee fans that went a step further than that to voice their frustrations. But it's not like I was blindsided by it, because I knew pretty much the whole year last year that, hey, this could be one and done. He could be here for 1 year and then he's out. So I enjoyed every moment I could with Soto and had one of the greatest at-bats in the postseason when he hit that home run that sent the Yankees to the World Series, basically. I mean, they had to get the final 3 outs in the bottom of the inning, but that was the home run that sent the Yankees to the World Series. And there was just a lot of magic last season with him. And there was some tough times, not with him, but just with the team in general, because with injuries and there were some struggles, but he helped get the Yankees back to the World Series for the first time since 2009. Didn't end how Yankee fans wanted it to, and I'll leave it at that. And, of course, we'll talk about that at some point. But, yeah, but it was just a magical year, and just him leaving, it was upsetting. It was. And I'm in the minority here, but I am always going to appreciate what he did in just his 1 year with the Yankees. But that's just because, again, I was not blindsided by this. Now, if you were to ask me earlier last year if I thought that he was going to sign with the Mets, I probably would have said no, because the Mets were playing so bad last year, like early on in the year. They were playing so poorly. They started off the year, 0-5? Now, again, money was a factor, so yeah, the Mets would have still did the same thing and they would have ended up with him, even if they didn't have this magic carpet ride that they did last year. But as the year went on and the Mets turned things around and, they got all the way to the NLCS, then that changed. I was like, yeah, they're on equal footing with the Yankees. They have just as good of a chance to get him as the Yankees do. And he ended up signing with the Mets, and here we are. Now, the Mets, they finally signed Pete Alonso, because that took so long. That if I was doing this show during the Pete Alonso negotiations, it would have been like the Brandon Ayuk situation last year. Just, okay, now the Mets offered him this, and now Alonso wants this, and it would just been that would have been exhausting. So thankfully, I'm starting this show with the Mets and Alonso. Everything is squared away, at least for this year, because Alonso could opt out, and then, well, he might end up leaving after this year if he has a big year. But I do like the Mets lineup. I like the Mets lineup with Soto. I'm curious to see how Carlos Mendoza sets the lineup, because is he going to want to do lefty-righty, or it's not going to matter. You're going to have Soto batting second behind Francisco Lindor. Now, on certain nights when, the Mets face a lefty, you will have that. You'll have a righty at the top with Lindor batting from the right side and then Soto batting second. And then, we'll see how they figure out the rest of the lineup there, the order. But look, do I think Soto is going to put up the same numbers that he did last year? No, I don't, because you're not going to have Aaron Judge batting behind you. Now, does that mean Juan Soto is going to have a bad year? No, Juan Soto is going to have a very good year. He is going to be very good for this team. And I know there's people that are going to complain about his defense, about his base running. That's what Yankee fans did immediately after he left. But this is a generational talent. And would I have given him that contract? Well, look, it's not me that was going to pay him. It was going to be the Yankees. And the Mets, they did it because the Mets can afford it. The Yankees could have afforded it. Is the contract a little ridiculous? Yes, but that's just how baseball is. That's just how sports is. So at some point, we talked about Travis Kelce and the wheels falling off. Well, the wheels are going to fall off of Juan Soto at some point, but it's not going to be now. The Mets have a chance with him in this window to do something. Now, I do think Juan Soto going from the Yankees, where the American League is not that tough of a path, as tough of a path as the National League is, the National League is going to be a little bit of a problem for the Mets. I think the Mets will be very good. And, you could say, well, they took the Dodgers to 7 games. That's right. Or 6 games. That's right. But the Dodgers also didn't have a healthy pitching staff, a fully healthy pitching staff. They're going to be better this year. So, you got to deal with that. And then you also have the Padres, who are going to be good. You got a couple of teams in your division that are going to be good, the Phillies and the Braves. Now, they might be some would say they'd be on equal footing with the Phillies. I mean, look, the Braves, they got to wait on Ronald Acuna Jr. to come back, because he's recovering from the torn ACL that he suffered last year. But you figure the Braves are going to bounce back. The Phillies are going to be right there. The Nationals are going to be a better team, but I don't see them as a threat in the NL East. It's the Mets, the Braves, and the Phillies. That's what it comes down to. And then the Central, I think the Mets are better than every team in the Central. And then, like I said, out West, yeah, and also I forgot to mention the Diamondbacks are going to be better too, because they're pitching with Corbin Burns now. You got him, you got Merrill Kelly, you got Zach Gallen, Brandon Pfaadt. That's going to be a very good rotation. So yeah, the NL is going to be a problem for the Mets, but I right now with the Mets, I would probably rank them third or fourth in the National League, maybe third. I would still probably put the Braves and obviously the Dodgers, but that doesn't mean the Mets can't go out there and prove me wrong. The problem with the Mets is I just worry about their rotation. That's my worries. The bullpen, I think, will be better than it has been in years past, but the rotation, I have, Clay Holmes, they're making him a starter. I'm curious to see how that goes. I don't think he's going to be a guy that gives them length. He's going to give you 4 or 5 innings, but I don't know how that's going to work. But they do have a good lineup, and, Soto, he was the grand prize this offseason, and the Mets won it. Usually that doesn't happen. But, this front office, times have changed now. Times have changed now. And he was asked, Juan Soto, when he met with the media, how are you going to deal with all the, the hate, the criticism from the other fan base in New York? And he just said by winning games. And I don't think when we get to May 18th, that's going to be the first time that Soto is going to go back to Yankee Stadium since everything that's happened. I don't think it's going to faze him. I think he's going to be fine. I mean, he might be taken back a little bit, like, wow, these fans showered me with love last year, and now they despise me. Well, I mean, can you blame him? Now, I want to go to that game. I will not be partaking in the booing. I'm just telling you right now. If I'm at that game, I will not be partaking in the booing. Now, that doesn't mean I won't get hyped when, if whoever's pitching strikes him out, but I can't. I can't do it. But, yeah, it's not going to faze him. Now that he's secured, he's got the contract, he's just going to play ball. And he's going to play well. And like I said, people complain about his base running and his defense. He did misplay some balls last year. He did. But there was other times where he made some really good plays. And he's got a rocket for an arm. I remember on opening day he threw out the Astros player at home plate. I forget who it was. I know Kyle Tucker hit the ball, but I forget who was trying to score. Or I think was it Dubon? I think it was Dubon. But yeah, he threw the guy out at home. I mean, he's got a strong arm out there, so he could throw some base runners out. But, is the defense going to be enough to be a headache? But here's the thing. Do the Met fans really care? Do they really care? Like, oh, yeah, he can't run the bases well. He doesn't run the bases well. Not a great fielder. You think they care? No. When the guy's hitting 35 home runs and he's driving in over 100, has over 100 RBIs, like, who cares? Who cares? He's now, what is he, 26 now? He's still in his prime. And he's going to be a huge piece for this team for a long time. Yeah, he's 26. He's going to be 27 in October. I mean, it's unbelievable. He's put together this Hall of Fame career, and he's only 26. He came up when he was 19? It's unbelievable. But yeah, I mean, Met fans don't care about that. Now, if it happens in a big spot, they're going to be upset. But look, they are over the moon with him being on the team now. And, Francisco Lindor, he had a slow start last year, but, he got hot. He was an MVP candidate. Now he's got Juan Soto batting behind him. He's going to benefit from that. The guys around Juan Soto are going to benefit from it. And he's also going to benefit Soto from having Pete Alonso back in the lineup, because the lineup before the Mets simply bringing back Pete Alonso just changes that whole complexion of the lineup. It makes the lineup deeper. I like their lineup, because now we'll see how Mendoza creates the lineup. But you got Lindor, you got Soto, Alonso, Nimmo, Alvarez. They're looking for a big year out of him. Mark Vientos had a good year last year. He was being looked at as their first baseman, which I wasn't really too crazy about that idea. But now we don't have to worry about that because they got Alonso back. So, yeah, no, I like their lineup. I do. I know Met fans are a little bit upset, though, because it doesn't look like Jose Iglesias is coming back. So, that oh my God, that OMG trend is not going to be a thing. And some people have their concerns about it, but I think the Mets are going to be fine. like I said, my concern with them is pitching. I think their lineup is going to hit. They're going to hit a lot, especially when now you have Soto, another big run producer in there. But, and you know what? I think they would make the moves necessary to try to improve it, the rotation. You got good production out of David Peterson last year. They got Sean Manaea back. But, the Canning signing, the Clay Holmes signing. Now, Clay Holmes, I think, out of the bullpen could be a valuable asset. Just not as a closer. But as a starting pitcher, yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that. And we'll see what happens with Kodai Senga, because he didn't really pitch last year. But that would be my concern. But, yeah, this lineup's going to hit. And I don't think they're going to start off. They're definitely not starting off 0-5. That's just not happening. Because they really struggled out of the gate. But like I said, Lindor was struggling. But now you got Soto in that lineup, and that changes a lot of things. So, yeah, he's going to have a big year. I don't think he's going to have the year that he had last year batting in front of Aaron Judge. But he's going to have a big year. And you know what the other thing, too, is with Soto? He's durable. He did miss some time last year. Like a few games with an injury. But guy plays every day. And the Mets need that. So that's my thoughts there. Let me know what you guys think. What are your expectations for Juan Soto going into 2025? Let me know in the comments. So we're going to take our final break of the show now. And then when we come back, we will talk about the Giants possibly selling a stake of their franchise. And who could possibly buy that stake? Interesting conversation that I wanted to have coming up. So for one final time today, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC, I almost said football, sports podcast. All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast. And for the final part of the show, we are going to talk about the Giants. Interesting story that came out that they are potentially looking to sell a stake of their franchise, about 10%. So, whoever were to buy it, they're not going to take over the majority of the franchise. But what does this mean? And who could possibly buy it? Now, this might not mean anything in the immediate future, but maybe the Maras and the Tishes. You heard John Mara talking about how he's running out of patience. Maybe he's just like, you know what? I'm done with this. I'm done. I'm beginning to grow tired of, how this team has performed over the years. Maybe make it someone else's problem. And the Maras and the Tishes have had this franchise for years. This has been passed down. So it'd be interesting, to see how the future looks for the Giants. Like, could at some point they look to sell most of the majority of the franchise, and then they're the ones that are the minority owners. So 10%. Now, what's interesting is Eli Manning, a couple of years ago, talked about wanting to maybe own a team at some point. 10%, the Giants maybe be looking to sell. Who better than number 10, Eli Manning? Give him a stake of the franchise. I'd be fine with that. I think Giant fans would be fine with that. Giant fans would be fine if they gave him, an extra zero after that, 100%, because, people have had it. Because, like I said, John Mara has talked about running out of patience, right, in an earlier interview during the year. Giant fans already ran out of patience because of how the team has performed over the years. So, yeah, I mean, that would be great. If Eli was able to, get a stake in the franchise. But yeah, that's how I kind of look at it. Is that maybe it's like a slow transition to maybe just them flat out selling it at some point. But that could be a little bit of an overreaction. But yeah, and also I wanted to bring up, so I watched a 40-minute video on the Giants from 2017. Actually, no. Really really like the last decade. Of just all the wrong decisions that have been made over the years and how we've gotten to this point. And it's just unbelievable. It really is unbelievable. The turning point of this franchise was the Giants letting go of Tom Coughlin and not letting go of Jerry Reese. Because Tom Coughlin was really upset over that. Because Jerry Reese was the man that gave Tom Coughlin the players. But Tom Coughlin ended up getting let go. And then the Giants got scared because the Eagles were looking to maybe hire Ben McAdoo, and they went and just promoted him to be the next head coach. Could you imagine if the Eagles ended up with Ben McAdoo instead? But at the same time, the Giants needed to make a change. It was time. It was time. But it would have made more sense had they just got rid of Tom Coughlin and Jerry Reese. They kept Jerry Reese and let go of Tom Coughlin. When if you were to do that, if you were to get rid of one and keep the other, it should have been vice versa, honestly. But yeah, it has been a long time since the Giants have really just had any kind of success. Well, I shouldn't say that because they did, a few years ago now with the playoff win over the Vikings. But the Vikings defense, you ready for this? 31st in pass defense. The Giants beat that. And then what happened when they went to Philly? They got destroyed. So, and here's the thing. The common denominator in all this has been John Mara. John Mara has made so many changes over the years, and they've all been the wrong moves. And a lot of times the Giants are hiring from within or bringing someone in that's familiar with the franchise. Like they brought back Dave Gettleman to run this thing, and it didn't work. It didn't work. He was there for Pat Shurmur, he was there for Joe Judge, and then, they finally went outside the organization and they brought in Joe Shane. And that led to Brian Dable being hired. And the first year, everything was great. But then these last 2 years, they've been disappointing. And the Giants are coming off of probably their worst season in franchise history. We talked about this last week. But this is probably their worst year ever. And I don't know if it's ever going to be topped. Because there was just not just on the field stuff, but off the field stuff. There was just so many things, so many variables to this season that, yeah, you could go back and look. What was worse than that? It was this year. It was 2024. In more ways than one. That's why, maybe Mara's had enough. So we'll see what ends up happening. But listen, I would be okay with them giving it to Eli. Because Eli also wants to contribute. In the evaluating process. Because the Giants, they got to figure out what they're going to do at quarterback. And Eli watches a ton of film. Actually, funny thing from the video that I watched with the Giants. So Dave Gettleman supposedly watched film. Not supposedly, but he did watch film on his Nintendo Wii. When have you heard of that? A GM watching film on a gaming console, especially the Wii. I didn't even know that we had that capability. It's just, wow. That's just where the Giants are at. So yeah, I look, Eli wants to be a part of the Giants. So make him a part-time owner. 10% to number 10. Sign me up. Sign me up. It only makes sense. It only makes sense. And then, you slowly but surely give him more of the percentage. And, before you know it, then he's the owner of the Giants. That's how I look at it. I mean, again, we'll see what happens. This is just hypotheticals. But, I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense. It makes sense. John Mara's running out of patience. But that's the thing. The other thing, too, is so if the Giants continue down this path and they continue to make the wrong decisions, so at some point, is John Mara just going to be like, yeah, I'm selling the team. I'm done. I'm out. I can't do this. So it's like, all right, so, I mean, the fan base will be really happy if that happens. But it's just, so you're never going to turn this around, and then, you're finally going to have it and just sell the team? Again, all hypotheticals. All hypotheticals. But Giant fans just want to be successful again. That's all they want. They just want to be a good team again. And it just seems like it's lather, rinse, and repeat. It's the same thing over and over and over again. They just want to be good. Fans just want them to be good again. And not be a laughingstock. Now, next year, it's going to be another rough year because you got 3 playoff teams, essentially. And you're not one of them. You're going to be in last place. And then what is John Mara going to do? Is he going to fire Brian Daboll and Joe Shane again because they play in a tough division? And then you got to go through the whole process again. Because he said he didn't want to go through it again. Well, might be doing it anyways. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. But I just thought it was interesting that the Giants could possibly be looking to do that. And we'll see what comes about it. Do they offer it to Eli? We'll see. But let me know what you guys think about that. So that brings us to the end of our very first show on the GSMC Sports Podcast. I know I slipped up a little bit saying the football podcast, but it happens. It happens. We'll get used to it. I've been doing the football podcast for over a year, so obviously that's gonna happen. But I hope you guys enjoyed the show today. Tomorrow, I haven't even gotten into what could potentially be discussed because we still got the NBA and the NHL are in their All-Star break. But baseball is back. We got spring training games coming up. We'll see if any trades around the NFL happens. The new league year is going to be upon us in a couple of weeks. So we'll get to free agency, and there'll definitely be an array of signings that we could go over, and obviously some NFL draft stuff. But yeah, no, we're gonna figure it out as we go along here. But again, hope you guys enjoyed the show today. Make sure to check out all the other shows as well on the network. Make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the video as well. And as always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder signing off from the GSMC Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great.